How to avoid pawn weaknesses in chess structure. Imagine your pawn structure as the backbone of your position. If it crumbles, your whole game can fall apart. So how do you keep your pawn formation strong and healthy? Let's break it down. First, every pawn move is like planting a seed. Once it's made, it's hard to undo. Before pushing a pawn forward, ask yourself if it creates a weakness like an isolated pawn or a backward pawn. Think about whether that move opens lines for your opponent or weakens your control of the center. Speaking of the center, controlling those central squares with your pawns on d4, e4, d5, and e5 is key. They give your pieces room to breathe and keep your opponent's pieces at bay. Avoid unnecessary pawn moves that weaken your grip on the center or create holes. Those are squares your opponent can jump into easily. Keep your pawns in connected chains, where each pawn supports the one next to it diagonally. These chains protect each other and make your position more resilient. The base of the chain is the most vulnerable point, so don't weaken it with careless moves. Also, try to keep your pawn islands to a minimum. Multiple separated groups of pawns are harder to defend because they can become isolated or doubled. Doubled pawns, two pawns of the same color stacked on the same file, are often a weakness. They can block your pieces and are harder to defend. Only accept doubled pawns if they give you a clear advantage, like open lines for your rooks or attacking chances. Watch out for backward pawns, which are pawns that can't safely advance and lack support from neighboring pawns. These can become easy targets for your opponent. Flexibility is another important factor. Avoid fixing your pawn structure too early with moves that limit your options later. Keep your pawn formation adaptable so you can respond to your opponent's plans. Always think about the long-term effects of your pawn moves. Weaknesses that seem harmless now might turn into big problems in the endgame when fewer pieces are left to defend them. When capturing, choose your method wisely. Sometimes capturing with a pawn can open lines or create weaknesses around your king, so consider whether capturing with a piece might keep your structure more intact. Lastly, look for chances to provoke weaknesses in your opponent's pawn formation. Attacking their pawns can create targets for your pieces and give you strategic leverage. By following these steps, you can keep your pawn structure solid, support your pieces better, and avoid giving your opponent easy targets. Always think about how each move affects your overall position and aim for a flexible, resilient pawn formation.